Welcome to KMUZ Theater Talk. I'm your host, Ed Schoaps, with news and in-depth interviews about plays and auditions happening at theaters throughout the Mid-Willamette Valley. My first guests today are director Linda Baker and actors Nyla McCarthy and Rick Sanders from the Keizer Homegrown Theatre production of The Lion in Winter. We'll also hear from actors Kristin Barrett, Vincent Turner, and Emily Paoli from the Wandering Players Theatrics production of EVIL Dead THEMUSICAL, coming to the Grand Theater in downtown Salem. But first, let's check the KMUZ Theater Talk calendar for news about shows and auditions happening at your favorite Mid-Willamette Valley theaters. For the McMinnville and Newburgh area theaters, at Gallery Theater in downtown McMinnville, Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is on stage at Gallery's Arena Theater through October 26th. The cast includes Lance Nutman, Holly Spencer, Reese Madden, and Jordan Reed. Check out the KMUZ Theater Talk podcast for a deep dive into Albee's masterwork with director David Bates and lead actors Lance Nutman and Holly Spencer. For more show information and tickets and to sign up for auditions, go to gallerytheater.org. At Penguin Productions in Newburgh, the complete works of William Shakespeare Abridged, written by Adam Long, Daniel Singer, and Jess Winfield, runs October 17th and 18th on the Chehalem Cultural Center stage in Newburgh. Join Penguin's madcap men in tights as they weave their wicked way through all of Shakespeare's comedies, histories, and tragedies in one wild ride that'll leave you breathless and helpless with laughter. That romp is followed May 1st through 10th by a new original musical, Ordinary Days, with music and lyrics by Adam Guan. This refreshingly honest and funny musical is about making real connections in the city that never sleeps, but probably should at some point. For show information and tickets, go to the Penguins on Stage website or their Facebook page. For the greater Salem area theaters, Bridgetown Conservatory of Musical Theater in Salem is staging 2 productions of The World According to Snoopy for the holiday season. This student production plays December 4th through 7th at the Bridgetown Theater Black Box in Portland and December 11th through 14th at the Verona Studio Theater in Salem. And it's not too early to grab a spot at Bridgetown's Spring Performance Camp happening March 23rd through 28th at Bridgetown's downtown Salem studio. Students will work on and present the SpongeBob Musical Student Edition. Register through the link on the Bridgetown Conservatory of Music Facebook page or website. And go to bridgetownconservatory.org and Facebook for information about triple threat and college prep classes and for links and tickets to Bridgetown performances. At Center Stage Theatrics in Salem, Salem Cinema will hold a real change for our community special screening of The Princess Bride on October 26th, to benefit Center Stage Theatrics. This fundraiser event will also feature a silent auction and costume contest. For more information, go to centerstagetheatrics.org, salemcinema.com, and their Facebook pages. At Keizer Homegrown Theatre, The Lion in Winter by James Goldman comes to the Keizer Homegrown stage November 7th through 23rd. Comedic in tone, dramatic in action, The Lion in Winter follows the Plantagenet family, who are locked in a free-for-all of competing ambitions set against the backdrop of a medieval Christmas. As the oft-imprisoned Queen Eleanor says, well, what family doesn't have its ups and downs? And this bunch of royals is no exception. Later in today's program, we'll hear more about this family battle royale from director Linda Baker and actors Rick Sanders, who plays England's King Henry II, and Nyla McCarthy, who plays Henry's wife, the powerful Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine. On the Keizer Homegrown Theatre call board, KHT has announced their 2026 season of shows, and auditions for all roles in most of those productions will happen November 1st from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the theater. Here are the shows that will be cast on November 1st. The Half-Life of Marie Curie by Lauren Gunderson, directed by Linda Baker. Playing Doctor, a farce by Billy Van Zandt and Jane Millmore, directed by Jeremy Clubb. JQA by Aaron Posner, directed by J. Gibson King. I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change by Joe DiPietro and Jimmy Roberts, directed by Shalene and Natalie Reed Holbrook. Audition dates for two other shows on the 2026 season, Shakespeare in the Summer and Misery, will be announced later. And the first show of the season, Love Letters, is already cast. For show information, tickets, and audition times and details, go to KeizerHomegrownTheatre.org and their Facebook page. At Pinnacle Theatre in Salem, A Comedy of Tenors continues at Pinnacle Theatre through October 25th. This madcap farce by Ken Ludwig and set in 1930s Paris centers on one hotel suite, 4 tenors, 2 wives, 3 girlfriends, and a soccer stadium filled with screaming fans. What could possibly go wrong? You can learn more from director Jennifer Jimzewski and actors Ken Hermans and Jerry Greeno on the KMUZ Theater Talk podcast. The final show of Pinnacle's 2025 season is In-Laws, Outlaws, and Other People That Should Be Shot. It runs November 21st through 13th. This crazy holiday comedy is written by Steve Franco and directed by Karen McCarty. On the Pinnacle Theatre call board, auditions for the first show of Pinnacle's 2026 season, the classic Kaufman and Hart comedy You Can't Take It With You, are 1 p.m. November 8th at Pinnacle Theatre's downtown Salem rehearsal studio at 197 Liberty Street Southeast. You Can't Take It With You is directed by Scott Ramp and runs January 30th through February 21st. See the PinnacleTheatre.org website and Facebook page for show information, tickets, and audition details. Wandering Players Theatrics in Salem is bringing back an audience favorite that its members produced last fall. Their reprise of the bloody and funny Evil Dead the Musical will play November 6th through 23rd at the historic Grand Theater and Event Center in downtown Salem. Actors Kristin Barrett, Vincent Turner, and Emily Paoli join me later in today's program to talk about why this cult musical is so popular with audiences and so much fun for actors. For more information and tickets for the show and special events, go to the DoTheNecronomicon.com website and Facebook page. And for the Stayton and Silverton area theaters at Brush Creek Playhouse in Silverton, Brush Creek's 50th anniversary weekend and gala event is coming up this weekend, October 17th through 19th. That gala is followed on November 28th through December 14th by Best Always, Marilyn Monroe. This play by Kathleen McBlair dramatizes the private moments of Marilyn Monroe's life after she became a star. Her life after fame was lonely and filled with long telephone conversations with friends, doctors, and strangers as she groped to find a sense of peace and belonging. It's directed by Russell Oliveira Jr. Go to brushcreekplayhouse.org and Facebook for show information and tickets. At Spotlight Community Theater in downtown Stayton, Spotlight's seasonal Haunted Theater happens October 24th, 25th, and on Halloween afternoon and evening. Stop by for a scare, a laugh, and spooky fun for the whole family. The first show of Spotlight's 2025-26 season is Aladdin Trouble, on stage February 12th through 28th. For show information, tickets, and audition details, see Spotlight's Facebook page and spotlightct.com. At the Albany and Corvallis area theaters, on stage at Albany Civic Theater, ACT is presenting a special Readers Theater performance of 84 Charing Cross Road, adapted by James Roos Evans from the book by Helena Hanff and directed by Charlotte Hedrick. It runs for one performance only on Saturday, October 18th at 7:30 p.m. as a fundraiser for ACT's Next Stage Building Fund. And it's back, fake blood fans. That popular cult comedy, Evil Dead the Musical, brings the Splash Zone back to Albany Civic Theater October 24th through November 8th. Check out our September 6, 2024 KMUZ Theater Talk podcast for an interview with director Johanna Spencer and actors Aunt Ash and James Murray, who reprise their roles this month at Albany Civic Theater. And after that, the classic Neil Simon comedy Barefoot in the Park runs December 5th through 20th at ACT. On the Albany Civic Theater call board, auditions are November 3rd through 5th at 7 p.m. at ACT for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and is directed by Dan Bushong and runs January 23rd through February 7th. For show information, tickets, and audition details, go to albanycivic.org and Facebook. At the Majestic Theater in Corvallis, November 7th through 23rd, you can see The Producers, the Broadway hit musical by Mel Brooks, all about a failed Broadway producer and his mild-mannered accountant who schemed to produce a notorious musical theater flop and pocket their backers' millions. Problem is, it's a real hit. And the Merely Players, the Mid-Valley's traveling Shakespeare group, will present their holiday show, A Merry Merely Christmas Story, a Shakespearean holiday parody, November 28th, 29th, and 30th at the Majestic. It's billed as the true original, wanted, 100-fold, sanguine-faced, lusty, all Shakespearean Yuletide. Quite a mouthful, but it sounds like fun. On the Majestic Theater call board, open auditions are November 10th through 11th for The Outsiders, adapted by Christopher Sergel from the book by S.E. Hinton. Is directed by Jax Calber and plays January 23rd through February 1st. The call is for 11 teenage actors to play roles as greasers and socias, with supporting role actors playing high schoolers to young adults and doubling as extras in large group and fight scenes. For show information, tickets, and audition details, go to majestic.org. For the Mid-Valley Colleges and Universities, Corbin University in East Salem is at corbin.edu/theater-arts. And November 13th through 23rd, Corbin University Theater Arts presents Around the World in 80 Days, based on the Jules Verne novel and adapted for the stage by Michael Hewlett. This is an adventure story of an eccentric Englishman, Phileas Fogg, who believes he can circumnavigate the Earth in exactly 80 days. But it's 1872, before planes and automobiles, and Fogg is ridiculed by his peers. Still, he wages his fortune on success and sets out on his challenging journey. The show is directed by Tamara McGinnis. For show information and tickets, go to the corbin.edu Theater Arts page or see their Facebook page. At Willamette University in Salem, Ride the Cyclone, a musical with book, music, and lyrics by Jacob Richmond and Brooke Maxwell, runs October 30th through November 16th. In this hilarious and outlandish musical, 6 teenagers from a Canadian chamber choir find themselves in limbo after a freak roller coaster accident. A mechanical fortune teller offers them the chance to compete for the ultimate prize, a return to life. Funny, heartfelt, and thought-provoking, Ride the Cyclone explores what it means to be truly live. It's directed by Hannah Penn. The Glass Door, an adaptation of Hedda Gabler by Heinrich Ibsen, adapted by Stephen Evans, runs February 12th through March 1st. The Glass Door reimagines Henrik Ibsen's classic for a new audience, exploring the ambitions and struggles of a woman trapped in a society that denies her agency. As she seeks control in a world that resists her, she becomes entangled in a web of intrigue, seduction, and destruction. It's directed by Susan Cormel. And The Breasts of Tiresias, an opera by Francis Poulenc, based on a play by Guillaume Apollinaire, runs March 14th through 15th at Willamette. Gender norms pop like balloons in Poulenc and Apollinaire's bawdy surrealistic romp. Frustrated with the life of a housewife, Tiresias sheds her breasts and becomes the male General Tiresias, and she leads a new life fighting distant wars on foreign battlefields, while her stay-at-home husband discovers a way to make babies on his own, but not just one, but 40,049 of them. This delightful sugar-coated pill is directed by Hannah Penn. Room of Forgotten Souls, inspired by the haunting discovery of thousands of unclaimed remains at the Oregon State Hospital, plays April 16th through 25th. Created by the ensemble, it will explore themes of memory, loss, and recognition, and investigate society's relationship with mental illness through the hospital's attempts to make uniform the canisters that stored the ashes. Due to water damage, the canisters begin to change in unique ways, as if the people were fighting to be recognized as individuals. This is directed at Willamette U by Jonathan Cole. For show information and tickets, go to wutheater.com and their Facebook page. At the Mid-Valley High Schools, South Albany High School is on Facebook at SAHS Theater. The Outsiders, adapted by Christopher Sergel from the book by S.E. Hinton, plays November 14th through 22nd at Lynn Benton Community College. And Central High School in Independence is on Facebook at chsperformingarts.net. Set sail for adventure in Central's fall play Treasure Island, adapted from the Robert Louis Stevenson classic novel by Ken Ludwig. It runs November 6th through 14th. And Dallas High School is at dhstheater.org and on Facebook at Dallas High School Thespians. Zombie Prom, a girl loves ghoul rock and roll off-Broadway musical set in the atomic 1950s, runs November 6th through 8th. And at the Salem area high schools, McKay High School is on Facebook at McKay Thespians. Mean Girls, the musical, will be on stage January 23rd through 31st. And McNary High School is on Facebook at Ken Collins Theater, where Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express, adapted by Ken Ludwig, plays October 22nd through 25th. North Salem High School is on Facebook at NSHS Theater. The almost unbelievable Christmas Spectacular is coming to the North Salem stage December 13th through 14th. And South Salem High School is on Facebook and Instagram at Sex and Drama, where the classic horror story Dracula runs October 30th through November 1st, and The Wizard of Oz runs the Yellow Brick Road at South High December 4th through 7th. At Sprague High School, the jukebox musical Mamma Mia comes to life November 6th through 15th. And West Salem High School is at westsalemdrama.com and on Facebook at West Salem Drama Department. The 1950s hit musical Guys and Dolls, based on stories by Damon Runyon, hits the boards there from November 6th through 15th. And that's a wrap for today's KMUZ Theater Talk calendar. If your Mid-Willamette Valley Theater has a play or audition coming up that's not on our calendar, please let us know at kmuztheatertalk@gmail.com. Joining me after the break are director Linda Baker and actors Nyla McCarthy and Rick Sanders to talk about James Goldman's The Lion in Winter, opening November 1st at Keizer Homegrown Theatre. That's headed your way right after this. KMUZ is your all-volunteer, nonprofit, community-funded radio station. We depend solely on listeners like you and businesses throughout our community to help keep KMUZ FM on the air and KMUZ Theater Talk coming your way. KMUZ's Fall Pledge Drive starts October 17th and runs through October 25th. But any time is a good time to join your friends, neighbors, and local businesses who support Salem's hometown community radio station. So do it today. Go to kmuz.org, click the donate button, and become a sustaining donor or make a one-time contribution that fits your budget. And thank you for supporting KMUZ Theater Talk and your commercial-free, all-volunteer, community-funded radio station. James Goldman's The Lion in Winter is a wonderful classic play. It's actually set in the Christmas time, and it comes to Keizer Homegrown Theatre November 7th through 23rd. This dramedy is about the Plantagenet family locked in a free-for-all, and I'm really happy to have today's first guests here on Theater Talk. Linda Baker is the director, and Nyla McCarthy and Rick Sanders are playing the leads in this show. Thank you so much for joining me here today on KMUZ Theater Talk, and welcome.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
Linda Baker, this is a wonderful show. It has its challenges. Tell me why you wanted to bring this particular show to Keizer Homegrown Theatre this season.
It's sort of a bucket list play, and it was originally intended for Patricia Wiley to direct because it's her bucket list as well. And then it became a challenge for Patricia to be out here in the summer. She's currently living in Louisiana, and it's always been a show that's been interesting to me. So I just said, okay, the theater gods are sending me something wonderful. So we just kept it on the calendar and kept on going.
On the Keizer Homegrown website, it dubbed as being comedic in tone and dramatic in action. So is it a comedy? Is it a drama? Is it both?
I think it's both, actually. Surprisingly, as we've worked with this script, we found lots of places where you just can't help but laugh. Basically, you're hearing contemporary issues and contemporary children arguing with their contemporary parents in medieval costume.
It's like Succession. It really is. It's like Succession.
It really is, yeah.
Nyla, you're playing a really fantastic role, the powerful French Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine, and she's married to England's King Henry II. Her protagonist, played by Rick Sanders, and this is her second marriage. Tell us a little bit about her history.
Well, Eleanor really gets short shrift in history, which is one of the reasons I wanted to portray her, and I'm so excited. When she was 13, she was already the Duchess of Aquitaine. Her father had died, and Aquitaine, by the way, in the south of France along Spain, was famous for its luxurious lifestyle. It was way far superior to France or England in terms of culture. Eleanor was 13. She was the biggest heiress in Europe. She had a huge fortune. And so King Louis the First, who was known as Fat Louis at that time, wanted her for his son, the first son who was killed by his horse tripping over a pig, one of those sad, funny things that happens in history. So Louis II, who had been raised to be a monk, who was 17 at the time, was rushed into marriage to the now orphaned heiress who was 13. They were married for about 16 years. Eleanor went with him on crusade, which was kind of an amazing thing for a woman to have done in that era. He having been raised to be a monk, and she did not enjoy, shall we say, a very connubial relation. She only managed to produce 2 daughters. And after she saw what a dreadful leader he was in the Crusades, she petitioned the Pope for an annulment. When they got back to France, she bore him a second daughter. And finally, based on the fact that there were no heirs, she got the annulment. She then, within 8 weeks, married Henry, who was at that point the Duke of Normandy, the son of Geoffrey. A lot of people think that they had probably already planned that marriage, possibly through a relationship she may have had with Geoffrey, Henry's father. In any case, she ended up marrying Henry, and then within 3 years, he was the King of England, and she was now the Queen of England as well. Everybody wanted her lands.
But in this play, Rick, Henry imprisons Eleanor off and on over the years. Why is that?
Eleanor was not very happy with Henry for a number of reasons, one of which early on, Henry had fallen in love, very deeply in love with another woman. In revenge for Henry's long-term relationship with Rosamund Clifford, Eleanor joined forces with Henry's sons in civil war against him. Henry won the war, made peace with his children to a degree, but imprisoned Eleanor as a way to keep her away from the boys and to keep her out of his hair.
One of the reasons Eleanor also challenged Henry was because he was using Aquitaine kind of as a personal bank, her lands. And when she was imprisoned, theory is that he kept her imprisoned as long as he did because he had access to all of the resources and money to continue funding his quest to grow.
Wow.
What a family.
Yeah, I know. It's like Queen Eleanor has a prophetic line in the show, which is actually quite funny. Nyla, can you give us that one?
Oh, what family doesn't have its ups and downs?
Sounds like a lot of historical intrigue. But what I really want to know, Linda, is you talked a couple of minutes ago about this being more of a contemporary take on the royal family in medieval times. Explain what you actually mean about that, if you would.
I think that the playwright really wasn't aware of history or what it was actually like in medieval times, or he just decided to load it with anachronisms, including a Christmas tree, and a long time before they actually became part of the Christmas celebrations. But it's really across history. People are people. We have the same issues. We have love and we have lust instead of love, and we have jealousy and we have egos and people who want to rule and want their parents' approval and all of the things that are still issues right now in our time, because basically this is a look at a family, and a family that's pretty darn dysfunctional. We have a dad who doesn't want to give up power. We have boys who all want power. We have a wife who's been scorned and wants revenge and power. There's not much different now than it was all those years ago.
The holiday time setting is very interesting. Does that help with the idea that whenever you bring a dysfunctional family together at holiday time, sparks are going to fly and humor is going to play a part in it, right?
Perfect. All we're missing is the drunk old uncle.
There actually was this Christmas court that they did trot Eleanor out of prison to try to arrange the succession. There were several, but though the timeline's a bit skewed in this script, it is based on a historical event.
Wow, that's fascinating. Rick, what is Henry's main aim in this play? There are a lot of sons involved. Tell us a little bit about his relationship with the sons as well as Eleanor that gives him heartburn at Christmas time.
Nowadays, when we think about a royal family and succession, it's the oldest child who automatically becomes the heir to the throne. That wasn't the case back in the 12th century. So the king would need to designate an heir. In this particular case, his oldest son, young Henry, has died, and Henry has not named a new heir. Because of the family dynamic, it's very difficult to make a choice because the current eldest son, Richard, who turns into Richard the Lionheart, is a favorite of Eleanor. And Henry has a very skewed relationship with Eleanor. The next son is Geoffrey. Poor Geoffrey. Nobody loves Geoffrey. There's many great lines in there. It's a great part for somebody, but historically, nobody cared about Geoffrey. And the youngest son is John, who subsequently became King John, great infamy in England. So Henry needs to designate an heir. The only way he and Eleanor know how to do this is by playing games with each other. I mean, very deadly games with each other, wars and trickery and all of this stuff. Henry can't just say, I want so-and-so, because he's got Eleanor who says, well, I want so-and-so. And so they're going to bang heads. And that creates a lot of heat, shall we say.
And Nyla, what is Eleanor's aim in all of this? She's let out of prison once again just for the holidays. What's that dynamic like for Eleanor?
Well, in this particular time when she's let out, she has to face the fact that Henry and Alice, who was one of the daughters who was promised in marriage to originally the dead young King Henry, and now has been given to Richard. He's living in sin with her, quote unquote. So she has to kind of deal with that. But she's there with the intention of convincing Henry that Richard will be the king, because she knows that if she can get Richard into that position, her Aquitanian lands will be saved. Her lineage is much more noble and more elegant than the English. And so she wants that. And of course, she wants to be out of prison. And it does happen that Richard will let her out when he's king.
And Richard, being Eleanor's favorite, is not Henry's favorite. So Henry doesn't want Richard, even though he's the most able of his sons. He doesn't want Richard on the throne. He doesn't think about Geoffrey, so he wants John on the throne.
Wow, this is really fascinating. And all this history gets mashed up in this show, but in a more contemporary way. I find that fascinating. Linda, what's the biggest challenge of bringing this show to the stage when you're trying to combine history in a dramatic, comedic way with more contemporary language?
That's an interesting point because there is a significant amount of exposition in this play. For us, the biggest challenge is not having it just be a bunch of people standing around in beautiful costumes spouting lines. And I think we solved that. This play moves very quickly and in very interesting ways. Again, we've kind of tapped into real people. And so they've been given the opportunity to find themselves inside the skin of someone else. So the way each one of them moves, the different patterns that seem to be developing, the repetitions of one thing that a father does and then you see in the son are all sort of physically manifested so that it's not just stand and talk.
Mm-hmm.
So much happens between the lines. Some of the richest transitions are actually in between the lines because the minds of everyone, and particularly Henry and Eleanor, are constantly trying to move the chess pieces 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of someone else.
And Linda, the intrigue of this show is really important. What is the thing that you look forward to in your rehearsals to bring this to the audience in a way that they understand not only the intrigue, but the motivation behind it?
I read something or heard something, I don't remember which one of those things it was the other day, and it was saying that people think that jazz is just improvisation, but in reality, there's a pattern to it, and then the musicians improv inside that structure or that pattern. And I think that's how the intrigue is manifested in this show. The structure is there. We've put the structure in place. And now the actors having the opportunity to move inside that structure and how they relate inside that structure. And for me, as a director, to sit back and watch people like Nyla and Rick and to watch what they are doing as they let those characters come on inside of them is remarkable. And that's where the intrigue comes. That's where the interest comes, the interaction between these characters inside the structure we've already created.
Nyla, what is your challenge in bringing that to the audience?
Well, to be honest with you, I think most people who are familiar at all with Eleanor of Aquitaine, which is really sad because she's one of the most amazing figures in history and was frankly stronger and smarter than any of the men on the stage, is that they think of Katharine Hepburn in that film. Or if we're lucky, maybe they saw Stockard Channing on Broadway or they saw the Glenn Close vision, but not very many. And Eleanor's often kind of perceived, and I think even Hepburn did that. She alternated between being imperious and kind of quivery. Finding the depth to this woman, she was a real person, and there's so many traps. It would be easy to play her as always imperious and hard, or to just go for the pathetic, betrayed woman, but to try to find all of those levels in there, the honor and integrity of that person is I think the challenge. I want the audience to see a genuine woman who has in fact been wronged not only by her husband and the people on stage, but by history, so that maybe they'll be interested in going out and finding out more about what existed at that time and how that kind of came forward.
Well, she was a survivor, for one. I mean, 13 years old, married to some guy she didn't really know, who they had to pull him out of the seminary for the marriage. And then she has all of her lands and all of the troubles that come with that. She barely escapes being assassinated at one point in her life, and she marries the guy she's hanging out with, but he turns out to be not necessarily a trustable man.
That's right.
Welcome to the 13th century and onwards, of course. I'm not justifying the 8 centuries after that.
But. I mean, as Henry, his bio is very interesting as well. What does Henry really want at the time that this show is set?
I think there's two things. The main one is he has to name an heir. He absolutely has to. It's a way to make peace in his huge realm. And everybody's counting, who's coming next? Henry's getting older. He's, at the time of the play, he's 50 years old, which for a man, especially a soldier at that time, that's ancient. So he knows his time is short. So he has to name an heir. On the other hand, this is his baby. This empire that he's built is a part of him, and he needs to have it continue. And so he can't just let go and say, okay, you guys figure it out, or I'm going to name somebody and then back away. He's not going to back away. So on the one hand, his aim is to have the heir in place, but as what happened with his oldest son, young Henry historically wanted power. He was named a young king, he was crowned, but had no power. Henry still had power. So he doesn't want that to happen again. So he needs to name an heir, but has to be careful because that son of his, whoever it is going to try to take power from him, and he's not ready to go.
Linda, when we look at these characters and the intrigue and the battles between fathers and sons, mothers and sons, spouses, rivalry among the kids, what do you hope the audience is going to remember from this show?
I think the people and maybe recognize, well, not everything in themselves, because the piece that we haven't mentioned in this show is that Henry the King is sleeping with a princess from France who just happens to be the supposedly intended bride of his oldest son. So I'm hoping people won't see themselves there, but in other parts of of this play, I think that, like you said, this is Christmas sometimes in a lot of households. It's very recognizable. Maybe it's kings and queens, but the same kind of thing. Mommy doesn't love me enough. Mommy loved him too much. Your dad's favorite. All of those things are there. And I think it's just the humanity of this play.
You know, underneath all of it, Henry and Eleanor actually did love each other, which was rather unique among, as you know, the aristocracy where marriages were arranged. They certainly had an intense passion. She was pregnant 8 times and delivered 8 babies in the first 15 years of their marriage, which the poor woman was running a country and being pregnant. But that shows that in addition to all of his womanizing, they had a lusty relationship. And the research that I've been doing kind of suggests that it was really Henry's greed for power and again, kind of utilizing her land and resources and not honoring her lineage that began to drive the wedge even more than the woman, which, you know, historians always want to weaken women by making it be about the wronged woman. And the playwright has certainly done that. So we're that's the line we're carrying. But in real life, these two people did have a strong relationship. So I kind of hope the audience sees that all families, sons, daughters, mothers, husbands, wives, despite the dysfunction, often do have love in all of its strange shadings underneath there as a bedrock.
And Rick, what's your take that you hope the audience has?
I love history. And even though this is about contemporary families and has contemporary language and contemporary issues, these were real people. And I am hopeful that people walk away first enjoying the show and having been entertained, but learn something about history. That these are people who very distant from us. This is 1183, so we're talking 1,000 years ago. That there's something that piques their interest to dig a little further. Like I said, I love history, and in reading the play, it made me want to learn more about the Plantagenets, about Henry and Eleanor and everybody else. So that's a hope of mine, is that they'll take a little bit of that and have fun with that.
The Lion in Winter follows the Plantagenet family, who are in a holiday free-for-all. There's competing ambitions. There's an imprisoned queen who is paroled for the holidays. There's behind-the-scenes love. There's a battle for successor. It sounds pretty much like the holiday table at my house. No, not really, but it's a really intriguing story by James Goldman, who has set it in contemporary contemporary language and with a more contemporary view on it. And I'm really happy to see that the show is coming to Keizer Homegrown Theatre. It's playing November 7th through 23rd. You can find more information about the show, and you can get tickets at keizerhomegrowntheatre.org. And I want to thank our guests today, Director Linda Baker and actors Nyla McCarthy and Rick Sanders, for joining me here to talk about The Lion in Winter on KMUZ Theater Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next, I'll talk with actors Kristin Barrett, Vincent Turner, and Emily Paoli from the Wandering Players Theatrics production of Evil Dead the Musical, and we'll talk about why this cult show is so popular with audiences and so much fun for actors. So stay with us. Hey, it's Ed Schoaps here, host of KMUZ Theater Talk. Now, I know you love hearing about shows and auditions at your favorite Mid-Willamette Valley theaters, or you wouldn't be listening to KMUZ Theater Talk right now. That's why I'm asking you to go to kmuz.org today and hit the donate button to support KMUZ Theater Talk and your all-volunteer, commercial-free, nonprofit community radio station. Help us keep the lights on and the transmitter humming, okay? Make a one-time donation or become a monthly sustaining donor, whatever fits your budget, at kmuz.org. And thanks a million for supporting KMUZ FM and KMUZ Theater Talk. For fans of Evil Dead films, I have a special group of guests joining me here today from Evil Dead the Musical that is playing at the historic Grand Theater November 6th through 23rd. And we have actors Kristin Barrett, Vincent Turner, and Emily Paoli joining me here to talk about why the show is so popular with audiences and why it's so much fun to be in. Welcome to KMUZ Theater Talk, guys.
Thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
Definitely, yeah.
Kristin, this is a really fun show. It's been very popular. It's not the first time in Salem, and there is also a reprise of this show going on at Albany Civic Theater. Why do you think the show is so popular?
I think it has to do with the splash zone. That is not a typical musical feature.
You know, I thought you might be mentioning that. What is the splash zone for those who might be interested or uninterested in it?
The splash zone is the first few rows of the theater. For the Grand, I think it's going to go a bit farther than that.
Ooh.
For a VIP ticket, you will experience all of the blood, guts, and gore up close and personal.
And it's not real blood, it's stage blood. Are you guys doing anything different from the previous version of this show?
We are scaling up in all ways this year. So I have heard rumblings of a new element that should make it bigger and splashier than ever before.
Oh, goody. Vincent, is this your first time with this show?
I mean, this is actually my second year with the show.
Oh, so you were in the production at Chemeketa Community College last year, right?
Yes, both Kristin and I are actually returning to the show.
So what about this production is different for you from the last production that you were in?
Well, first of all, the venue is a lot closer to home for me. And it's just, I'd say more intimate because we have things prepared already. We have our set that we're able to just add on to as well as our props and our costumes. So we're able to add a lot more detail and such, which we weren't able to last year, and just build onto it to make a better show.
So it's almost like a traveling show at this point. You've got stuff in storage, right?
Exactly, yes.
Emily, what role are you playing in this show?
I'm playing Shelley. Shelley is Scott's girlfriend, for those of you who have seen the movies or the musical before.
For those who haven't seen the musical or maybe haven't seen the films, especially the second one, which this musical is very closely based, can you give us a little kind of overview of the storyline of the show?
Ash, who is the main character, is taking his closest friends on a little spring break vacation to a remote cabin. Mm-hmm. And they go out and they have this vacation planned, and it kind of goes sideways. Lots of unexpected alternative guests.
Yeah, someone accidentally or for fun reads something from the Book of the Dead and chaos ensues.
Exactly. They find the Necronomicon in the basement.
Oh boy. Kristin, what role are you playing in this show?
I am playing Cheryl, so I am Ash's younger sister.
Is this different from the role that you played in the previous edition?
No, I am one of two actors returning to the same role.
And Vincent, I understand that you have a different role in this show from the last one.
I do. Last year I played Shemp, which is kind of the ensemble everyman person. This year I'll be playing Ed, which is the soft-spoken boyfriend of Annie, the daughter of the father who finds the Necronomicon.
You guys are opening in a couple of weeks when we record this. I'm really interested to know, Vincent, as a returning actor to this show, what is it that you look forward to that may be different from the last time you were in it?
I think we have more creative freedom with this production. The Grand is eager to work with us on many ideas that were at first, a dream, but now we're actually able to implement them. And so seeing these things slowly come to fruition with some of the special effects we have planned for the splash zone particularly will be a treat to see.
Kristin, what brings you joy in this show when you are on your way to rehearsal every night?
This is a bucket list role for me. This is actually my third time doing this show and second time with this company. I really love this character. Anytime I get a chance to be Cheryl is a great day.
What's so beloved about that for you?
This is a really high physicality role, and I have a big dance background. Unlike other musicals, it allows me to use my body and my dance training in a very specific way that I don't often get to play with.
And what exactly does that mean?
So Cheryl is one of the first people to get turned into a deadite, which means that she's an undead zombie demon for the majority of the show, and that looks a lot different from being a human.
Okay, so you bring a two-step to the zombie step.
Yeah.
So to speak. Yeah. Okay. And Emily, do you have a favorite part of the show that you look forward to when you are waiting to get on stage?
That's tough. I really, really like the musical number, Do the Necronomicon.
Mm-hmm.
We just finished choreographing that one the other day, and it is so fun. Our whole cast is up there, and we get to just let it all out. Just be crazy, deadite demons, and sing our little song, and it's so fun.
It's kind of like a chorus line for zombies, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That one's like
Yeah.
a awesome rock number almost.
What do you think the audience is going to take away from this show? There's a splash zone and there's the chainsaw and zombies and there's heroes and there's comedy in everything and parody of every zombie trope. But what is it that you guys think the audience is going to take away from this show?
I think that this show specifically is very campy, intentionally, of course. But that allows for the audience to have fun and for the cast to have fun, where we're following less stricter guidelines, I would say, than a typical production on stage. But it allows everyone to have a more entertaining time, considering that it's far less normal than anything you'd rather see on stage usually.
I agree with that and want to add, I hope that people come see this show and can leave thinking, man, they can really just do anything up there. They can make anything happen and encourage people to use their creativity in their everyday lives.
I think this show hits a wide range of audience members. There's the hardcore horror fans who are going to see all the scary movies, go to all the haunted houses this season. But this show's also really accessible for people who are like, I would really rather just stay home and hand out candy. So it's a good time for everybody who gets a ticket.
What is the youngest age that you think this show would be appropriate for?
I would say parental discretion, absolutely, but this is probably a minimum 16-year-old show.
So high school or better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, why is that?
Well, this is an adult show. There's a lot of coarse language. There's a lot of innuendo and suggestion that goes along with the high camp. And it's going to depend on the audience member. Plenty of adults are going to know where their limits are and where their boundaries are. Kids less so.
So why do you think people enjoy that splash zone so much?
It's a unique element. You're definitely not going to get a splash zone at a chorus line or Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, unless something goes really wrong.
Unless something goes horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And people like the bragging rights. We have folks show up all the time dressed in white from head to toe. They like to
Oh
take
my
photos
God.
afterward, and they like that visceral experience and feeling like they're really a part of the action.
Well, visceral is a good word to use for it. Parental guidance for 16 plus, and wear white if you come to the splash zone, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, favorite word that you would use to describe this show? Emily, go.
Groovy.
Kristin.
Campy.
Vincent.
Flashy?
All right, folks, you've got a treat coming up for you November 6th through 23rd at the historic Grand Theater and Event Center in downtown Salem. It's Evil Dead the Musical. It's bloody, it's funny, it's campy, just an all-around fun time for 16 and over. You can get more show information and tickets. Go to the DoTheNecronomicon.com website and Facebook page, or you can also go to the Historic Grand Theater and Event Center page as well. Break a leg, you guys. Have a great time, and we'll see you in the theater. Probably not in the splash zone, but I'll see you there. Thank you, Kristin Barrett, Vincent Turner, and Emily Paoli for joining us here at KMUZ Theater Talk to talk about Evil Dead the Musical.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
It's time to wind up today's KMUZ Theater Talk program. Thanks a million for listening. KMUZ Theater Talk comes your way at 9 a.m. the first and third Friday of the month on KMUZ 100.7 and 88.5 FM. Also on KMWV FM Dallas at 98.3 HD2 and streaming worldwide at kmuz.org and on the KMUZ mobile app. If you'd like to share this program with your friends and hear more behind-the-curtain interviews, open your favorite podcast app and subscribe to KMUZ Theater Talk. I'll be back November 7th with a brand new KMUZ Theater Talk program. Meanwhile, see the KMUZ Theater Talk Facebook page for news and updates about live theater in the Mid-Willamette Valley. And next Friday at 9 a.m. on KMUZ 100.7 and 88.5 FM, you can hear Talking About Art with Joel Zack. KMUZ Theater Talk is proud to partner with the Mid-Valley Theater Network and with Press Play Salem. Until next time, I'll see you in the front row.